Your feelings, your needs, your expectations feel controlling to the avoidant. That's right. Healthy relationship behaviors can feel controlling to this person, especially if you're dealing with a dismissive avoidant or a fearful avoidant that leans heavily dismissive. One of their biggest fears is losing their autonomy, losing their independence in a relationship to somebody who's ultimately going to reject and abandon them. And they'll have lost their ability to fend for themselves. They'll be rejected, heartbroken, and splat. So they keep their partner at an emotional distance to maintain their own semblance of control, to maintain their own autonomy. So in the relationship, when you have feelings about how they're showing up for you, when you have expectations about how you want them to show up for you, when you have any criticisms about how they've been treating you or showing up for you, they will feel smothered, controlled. But it's not that you're doing anything that's actually controlling or smothering. It doesn't mean that you're showing up in an unhealthy or toxic way. But what it means is that this person has deep attachment wounds from childhood, and they don't currently have the capacity to engage in healthy relationship behaviors. Even emotional intimacy, that closeness that builds in a relationship, can cause them to feel smothered and controlled. By creating distance between themselves and their partner, they soothe their anxiety and regain their sense of control. The reason they fear this, it goes back to childhood. This is a person that received consistent childhood emotional neglect. They were not given that love and nurturing in the way that they needed as a child. But in addition to that neglect, they often had a parent or both that actually was very controlling of them, smothering. Sometimes a parent that thrusts them into an adult role, using the child as a sounding board to help regulate the parent's emotional needs. So what happens is they grow up to associate emotional closeness with being smothered, being controlled, losing your independence. Since they experienced all that neglect, they had to learn to fend for themselves. They had to learn to regulate their own emotions. Nobody ever showed them how to process emotions or stress. So they had to figure it all out on their own. And all of this combined creates this sense of hyper independence, fiercely independent, not asking anybody for any help of any kind, because they associate asking help with losing your independence. It's like a whiplash reaction. They were smothered as a child, but not in a nurturing way. So as an adult, they have this complete fear of losing that independence and having it taken from them. Despite all this, deep down, they long for love, they long for intimacy, they long for connection. But when they get it, their fears are triggered, they feel smothered, they feel controlled. Now, they also associate rejection and abandonment with it, because they learn too that if you rely on anybody for your emotional needs, this person's going to disappoint you. They're going to reject you, perhaps even outright abandon you. So as an adult, the fear is, if I let this person in, if I get vulnerable, they're going to smother me, I'm going to lose my independence, but then they're going to figure me out. They're going to figure out that I'm not good enough, and they're going to reject me, and they're going to abandon me. So I will have lost my ability to take care of myself. I'll be crushed and brokenhearted. So when these fears are triggered, they feel the urge to push this person away, to regain the control, and it's safer to be the one doing the abandoning than to risk being abandoned themselves. So when you have boundaries, expectations, which are a normal part of a relationship, by the way, that can be very triggering to them. In reality, every relationship has expectations. Just being in a committed relationship comes with a bare minimum baseline of expectations. If you're committed, it's expected that you won't cheat. It's expected that you'll communicate with your partner. It's expected that you will be faithful and honest in the relationship. So having expectations, needs, and feelings is not wrong. And don't let this person gaslight you into thinking that your needs, your boundaries, your feelings are wrong, just because your needs, boundaries, and feelings don't work for them. Your boundaries are your limits of what you will and will not tolerate, what you want, don't want, what you need, don't need, and what you expect and don't expect. It's what works for you. If it doesn't work for this person, well, they're showing you that there is a deep incompatibility. Your boundaries are not wrong. Again, it's what works for you. So when they try to convince you that you're wrong for having the needs, feelings, or boundaries, what they're actually doing is gaslighting you because they don't want to actually meet your expectations, your needs. It's inconvenient for them. So if they can get you to doubt yourself, they get to escape accountability for not putting in the effort or the consistency in meeting your needs. So if they called you controlling, but you look back and say, I actually just treated this person in a normal, healthy, loving way, it's a representation of their own insecurities, their own attachment wounds. It doesn't mean you're actually controlling and smothering. This is why hyper-independence, fiercely independent, when they advertise this early on, and many of them will even put it on their dating profile if they're on a dating app, it is a big red flag that you're dealing with a dismissive avoidant. A normal, healthy, secure person should be an independent person. Being independent is good, but it should be a given. A secure person doesn't feel the need to boast about their independence, but an insecure, dismissive avoidant that fears losing their independence makes a big deal about it early on. What they're doing is telegraphing their insecurities. So if someone boasts about being hyper independent early on and they make a pretty big to-do about their independence, open your eyes. It's very likely that you're dealing with a dismissive avoidant.